I've been using this aorus 15X as my main computer and my main laptop for about 2 years now, so I think it's time I do a review on it and give my opinion on how it's been performing. So in this video, I'm not going to go super deep in benchmarking tests and stuff like that. I'm just going to focus on how the laptop's been for me. There's a ton of videos out there that benchmark the hardware. I'm just going to go ahead and give my personal opinion on how this laptop has performed over the 2 years that I've been using it. Looking in the specs here, this has an i9-13900HX processor, and for the graphics card is rocking a 4070, but it's the laptop version. Don't get it confused with the big bad boy desktop 4070. And for RAM, it came with 16 gigabytes, but I upgraded it to 32 gigabytes, and it came with a 1 terabyte M.2 drive. I also added another 2 terabyte M.2 drive in it as well for my video editing stuff. So that's the basic specs there. Looking at the screen, it's got a 165 hertz 4K display. I do believe it's not 2K. It might be 2K. I have to double check. I'll post it up here on the screen. Screen works pretty well. I do wish it was a little bit more color accurate. And for the operating system, it's running Windows 11. So that's the basic specs there. I'm going to go ahead and talk about my experience with it, any complaints I've had, and if I would recommend this laptop. So I did buy this laptop basically brand new when the 40 series was just coming out, and it was pretty expensive. I think I paid $2,700 for this laptop at the time. Now this replaced my desktop. I sold it because I was going to be living out of my truck full time, and I needed something I could, one, edit my videos on that had enough power to edit 4K videos. I do render these videos down on my other channel to 1080p, but I do record in 4K, so I needed to have enough power to process that information. And I do like to game. So this replaced my old desktop, which had an i9. I don't remember what i9 it had in it. It was one of the older ones. I think maybe a 10 series, and it also had a 3060 Ti in it and 32 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. This says DDR5 RAM, I forgot to mention that. So this has worked pretty well for that desktop replacement. It was more powerful than my desktop, and I've been pretty happy with it. But I do have some complaints about just the daily use that I've had with using it. So now, because I'm a pessimist, let's go ahead and talk about my complaints first. My biggest complaint is this laptop really sucks as a laptop. So I'm gonna warn you, if you plan on buying a laptop like this with this similarly spec'd stuff, be prepared because it sucks as a laptop. If you're going to be going in between classes, you're only going to get about 2 hours of battery life. If you're worried about it being loud in class, or maybe you work in an office and you're worried about the fan noise, it does get very loud. I've messed with the fan profiles using the Gigabyte aorus software, but even if I put it in meeting mode and silent mode, both of them, the fans still ramp up. You may be able to hear the fan behind me right now. Right now it's in meeting mode because I'm preparing to record this video and I didn't want the fan ramping up. You can still hear the fan, and it's pretty loud. It's noticeable. So if fan noise and battery life is a big complaint for you, if you want to be able to use your laptop maybe in between classes, maybe you want your laptop to last a full day, I highly recommend against something like this. Like I said, if you do any gaming on the go, this laptop's only going to last you maybe an hour. But if you want to do like productivity or just maybe taking notes and stuff, you're only getting about 2 to 3 hours out of this laptop in meeting mode. That's with all the clock speeds turned down, and you're still going to have to deal with that fan noise. That's my biggest complaint here, is it sucks as a laptop. Fortunately for me, I really don't use it as a laptop anymore. It just sits on my desktop and I use it as a desktop replacement. Now I actually have a Steam Deck that I take with me for my gaming, and I wish I would have done that to begin with. If I would have went ahead and bought like a productivity focused laptop, it would have been quieter. It still would have did my video editing that I have to do, but it wouldn't have all the downsides that a gaming laptop has. And then I could have just gamed on my Steam Deck and used not that much power. And power goes into my second complaint. Now, this laptop draws about 250 watts of power, which is pretty reasonable compared to a desktop. But when I was living out of my truck, I only had a certain amount of battery backup to deal with. So let's say I wanted to edit my YouTube video, and it takes me a good long time to edit, especially my adventure videos when I was living out of the truck. So it would take me about 4 hours to edit my 4K video, and I would use all the battery that's in the laptop, not to mention that it performs worse when it's running on battery power. So then I would have to use my battery backup that I had around the truck. Now I had about 2,000 watt hours at the time, and my laptop would just drink through that in about 6 hours, maybe 4 hours, and then I have to worry about recharging it. And keep in mind, I'm living out of the truck, so I also use this power for my fridge. I use this power for charging phones, running my mobile hotspot, charging my camera battery. Power was a big concern of mine once I started living out of the truck and using my laptop and just making YouTube videos on the road. So I wish I would have did a little bit more research and just opted for a high performing, low power solution, maybe even a Mac solution, to be honest with you, because those M1 chips are super efficient and powerful enough to edit my videos. But this 250-watt laptop back here just drank through my power. So every day when I was living out of the truck, it was a concern of mine of dealing with power. I had some solar panels mounted on the truck, but it just wasn't enough to keep up, especially if there was a day or two of cloudy weather. I had a small generator too, but I didn't like firing that up, especially if there were other people around. I don't want to be rude and fire up a generator. These people were out there trying to enjoy nature. Meanwhile, I'm just living in it and I have to fire up a generator because that's my daily life. It really sucks as a laptop. If you've ever set a gaming laptop on your lap, they get very hot. Now, I've taken this laptop to my mother-in-law's, spent the weekend there for my wife, and this was a rough time for me. I would game on the couch and I would just sit there and play like a couple hours of CS with my buddies at night. And when I was doing this, I swear to you, my lap actually got burned. I got like first-degree burns on my legs when I was sitting there gaming. I wasn't in shorts or anything, I was in like joggers, but I still got very hot on my legs and it was just uncomfortable. So as a laptop, and that's actually what it's made for, is sitting on your lap, terrible. And it'll burn you. Just be prepared, it'll burn you, it runs very hot. Now that's gonna take me into my next complaint, is heat. This laptop runs extremely hot. That i9 processor does not care, it'll just run hot no matter what. At idle, with no load on the CPU, I'm sitting usually around 80 degrees Celsius. Now I've taken a look at the cooling and it's fine. I've done research on the i9 that's in this and it's supposed to idle at 80 degrees Celsius. And that just seems crazy to me that a processor nowadays just idles at 80 degrees Celsius. And when it starts ramping up, I've seen it be in the 100 degrees Celsius and just run fine. I will say, after extended periods of gaming, I've been playing New World again lately, and I've been gaming for, I don't know, maybe 4 hours, maybe 4 to 5 hours a night, running some Rage with my buddies. It does kind of seem to dwindle down in performance. I recently also replayed Red Dead Redemption 2. It's winter time out. I'm not really doing anything but sitting in my office gaming. And during the time, I was averaging probably about 80 FPS. I didn't do too many tests, but I just took a look at it. And I am running at 1440p on that 32-inch monitor behind me. But when I was gaming, it ran really good for the first, 2 hours or so. But once it started getting hot, and I could tell it was getting hot because my room would get hot. I would shut my door so my wife wouldn't get bothered by the lights in her room. Well, I guess in our bedroom. Well, when I would do this, it would start getting hot in here and you could tell the laptop started struggling. I would drop down by like 20 FPS and the heat would really start taking away from the performance. And not to mention, when this fan back here starts ramping up, it is really loud. I'm gonna post a clip of the fan ramping up right here so you can really hear it. It's very loud. And the thing about laptop fans is it's got a high pitched noise versus a loud desktop. So in my old desktop, I had an i9 in it. I overclocked it and it was in like the 5.1 gigahertz range, which, doesn't seem like much nowadays, but on that CPU, it was like one of the first or second gen i9s. It was pretty impressive to do. And to do that, I had to really ramp my fans up. And it didn't bother me because desktop fans are bigger, the RPM range is lower, and it doesn't make that very high-pitched noise. Now, laptop fans, smaller, they spin way faster, super annoying to listen to, especially when it's right next to your head like that. So very annoying to listen to, but these are all basically all gaming laptop problems, to be honest with you. They're all gonna be loud, they're all gonna be hot, and they're all gonna use power because, well, there's a lot of performance packed into these small units. Now, typical laptop complaints aside, how has it been just using it daily? Well, it's been pretty okay. I'm not a fan of the Gigabyte software they use to control the fans and the RGB. I don't know, it just feels very clunky to me. I've updated it a few times and it just doesn't feel very nice to use. I don't like it at all. Then I've had a few blue screens, probably about, I think, maybe 13 blue screens my time owning this computer, and usually the error is related to memory issues, like some kind of memory, I don't know, I can't remember the exact error code it was giving me, but it was related to my memory and I actually thought some of my RAM was having issues. It hasn't done it in a while, so it might have been some software I was running at the time, but about 13 blue screens. And I also had my one M.2 drive just randomly disconnect. I thought it completely broke because I sat down to edit a YouTube video and I used my 2 terabyte M.2 drive for all of my YouTube editing work. So I store videos on there, and then at the end of the year, or maybe halfway through the year, I take all of that data off of it and I put it on a hard drive and I set it up there. Well, I went to go edit a YouTube video and the drive was just gone. It was like it was unmounted. So I did some troubleshooting and I restarted a couple times and it just randomly reappeared. I was actually getting ready to order a new M.2 drive and just, saying that the drive broke. I think this is because the laptop runs hot. All the components on the inside of this computer are running hot, and the hotter the components run in a laptop, the less likely they're going to be to last longer, and the performance is going to slowly dwindle down the hotter they sit there and run, and the longer they sit there and run hot. So I just thought the M.2 drive just broke, and it was like, okay, whatever. But this was not the case. It did not break. It just randomly remounted itself, and I was able to see it in my operating system. Really weird. The other complaint I have is when I went to go upgrade my RAM, they have these thermal pads on the RAM to make sure, they're not running too hot and to make sure the heat is dissipating off the RAM. Well, instead of placing the thermal pad on top, they placed the thermal pad on the bottom of the RAM, which to make contact between the bottom of the heatsink. Well, makes sense, right? But the way the RAM tabs work is you go in there and you pull the side tabs apart, and then the RAM is on a hinge and it'll pop open. So the way it works, they push the RAM down on the thermal pad so the thermal pad would make contact to the heatsink. When they did this, it stuck the RAM down onto that thermal pad, so when I would undo the hinge, it wouldn't pop up. So I had to really actually pry up on the RAM to get it to let go of that thermal pad. I really thought I was going to break it, so it was not the best design, because usually if you just pull those tabs out, the RAM will automatically kind of pop up a little bit so you can pull it out. So it's not the case. I really had to apply a lot of pressure to remove the RAM. So if you have one of these and you're experiencing that issue, go to upgrade your RAM and it is not popping up, you're gonna have to slightly pry up on the RAM, which goes against everything that I want to do on my laptop, especially my $3,000 laptop back here. But I did it the first week I had it. Nothing broke, but it was very sketchy. I'm trying to think of any other issues I've had with this laptop. I don't like the laptop screen itself because it's not extremely color accurate. I noticed when I was editing photos, I didn't really enjoy the colors when I would look at them on my phone. The colors were a little bit off to what I would be used to. The monitor behind me is also off a little bit. I really need to invest a little bit more money to make sure my equipment's color accurate for my video editing and my photo editing. It's kind of my bad. Like I said, this is a gaming laptop. It's not really focused towards productivity and video editing. So I should have paid a little bit more attention to that when I bought this. Other than that though, it's been a great laptop for gaming. If you just want a laptop to throw on your desk and do some gaming, it's good to go. But I will let you know, if I would have spent $2,700 and built a desktop, I would have a way more powerful machine that runs a lot cooler than this laptop behind me. You pay a lot of money and a lot of premium money to be able to pick up this and go somewhere. And as I mentioned, it doesn't work that good. That fan is very annoying. I try to get the fan as quiet as I can get it. For example, when I'm doing interviews and doing meetings, I use this for that as well. And I gotta turn the fans down really low so I can use the webcam and the mic on it. It works good enough, the webcam, by the way. I use it for all my work meetings and I use it for interviews and such. I also use the mic on there. As long as you make sure the fans are toned down, the other person can hear you, and I haven't had any complaints when I am using it that way. So all in all, I'm gonna give this laptop like a 7 out of 10. It's been okay. It has came down in price now. I think you can get this laptop for about $1,500, which is a pretty good deal in my opinion for what it is. The keyboard works good. I don't really use the trackpad enough to give an opinion on it. I have used the keyboard a little bit on the go, but not too much. Again, I'm always plugging in a keyboard as well. But I did use the keyboard and I used the trackpad a little bit when I was living out of my truck, but I still prefer to edit with a mouse, so I didn't use it too much. So all in all, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It's good enough. Brand new, it was too expensive for what it is, but it works okay. It's thin enough and the build quality is great. It's got a metal frame. It feels good. It does feel premium. I haven't had any issues with it. Nothing's broke on it yet. So I've been using it for 2 years, gets a 7 out of 10. I hope this video gave you some good information about this laptop. I hope this video wasn't too boring for you. I hope you got some insight on this laptop if you're looking into the Gigabyte aorus X15, 15X, whatever laptops. They work pretty good. I'm not sponsored or anything. This is just me talking about my experience with a product I bought. Hopefully it gave you some insight. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It means a ton to me. We're gonna try to get this channel to 1,000 subscribers, and I'm gonna be talking more about tech stuff. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.